It's very difficult being a manager, trying to be a leader and not sound condescending. When you're trying to explain to somebody that sometimes personalities are simply something you cannot have control over in another person. So the advice I normally give is to sit with the person who's having the greatest issue with a personality clash, perhaps the one you've seen or the one who's raised it with you, and just sit and talk to them about how they're feeling. And be careful to talk in terms of how and what, and don't say why. When you ask why, you're actually directing the question at the person and they can go into a defensive mode. Whereas if you ask the questions how and what, you're asking them to describe a situation that's kind of at arm's length to them, and they can be less defensive about it and more objective. So for example, you might ask, how do you think this situation has occurred? Or what sort of things have led to a situation where you're feeling this at the moment? And I know for some people, asking about feelings in a workplace can get you kind of feeling awkward. And I get that. However, sometimes you've got to be brave, have some courage, and go that extra step and get the person to open up. One of the things you can do to establish that trust is to open up yourself a little bit. So you can start by maybe giving an example in the past where you've had a personality clash with somebody else, and maybe what that led to. Now, whether it's a positive or a negative outcome for you in your example, you can still use that as a story that opens you up and provides some vulnerability for you as a leader in that workplace. The person is more likely then to open up a little bit about their feelings and why the situation has gotten to where it has. Now, to resolve the conflict, asking the whats and the hows, the person should come to some sort of realization on their own as to what the causes are and potentially what they can do to subvert any further conflict in the workplace. The one thing that we really need to instill both in ourselves as leaders and in our colleagues and workers is that we cannot ever control the feelings, the beliefs, the values of somebody else. We can only do that for ourselves. And so the reaction that we have in a workplace, where the conflict actually starts, is in between our ears. So if we can do that first, we can then take a more objective view at resolving the conflict.